Mel, how do I manage emotions effectively so they don't blow up and hurt the people I love the most? You cannot control the shit that's happening around you, okay? So just understand that there's always going to be things that happen that you can't control. That's okay, that's life. Understand that you can always control what you think and what you do in response to the things that are happening. So, what does that mean? It means that if you're the kind of person that gets triggered easily, you get pissed off, you snap at people, you build resentment, you're gonna use the 5-second rule. You're gonna use the 5-second rule the second you feel that wave of emotion. And I know exactly what you're feeling, Mel-Ann. I think we all do. You know how that thing happens with the people that you love where you see them and you just wanna kill them? It happens to me too, and it happens to the people who love me. It's normal to have frustrations rise up, but it's a choice to let those emotions make you snap. You've got to do something that really makes you nervous or that you're afraid to do. Before you're about to do it, come up with an anchor thought. What's an anchor thought? Well, an anchor thought is something that's going to anchor you so that you don't escalate any situation into a full-blown panic attack or into a situation where you screw things up. It's a way for you to anchor yourself so you maintain control over what you're thinking and how you behave. So here's an example with flying. It's important when you're creating an anchor thought to pick something that is in the proper context of what you're afraid to do. So for flying, pick an anchor thought that has to do with the trip that you're taking. So if I'm boarding a plane to fly back home to Michigan, an anchor thought might be a picture in my mind of my mom and I walking on the shores of Lake Michigan where I grew up. That's a thought that makes me happy, it makes me excited, and it's also related to the trip that I'm taking. If you have a conversation that you need to have with your boss, pick an anchor thought about how you feel after having that conversation. Maybe it's you picking up the phone and calling somebody that you love and saying, oh my gosh, it went so well. Or, you walking out of the meeting and feeling like, yeah, I survived that conversation. I feel pretty good about myself. So now that you have your anchor thought, you're ready to beat the fear. How you're going to do it is this. So let's go back to the example of the plane. I'm on the plane, I'm flying to Michigan. We hit turbulence. My body's going to start getting agitated, right? I'm starting to get nervous. My heart starts to race. One of two things can happen. I can't control how my body might feel, but I can always control what I'm thinking about, and I can always control how I act, and so can you. So when I'm on a plane and the turbulence hits, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that's step one, and it's essential. And the reason why using the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is essential is because that is how you switch the gears in your mind, you awaken your prefrontal cortex, and you trigger your brain that you're now in control of your thoughts. You've interrupted the fear, you've settled your thoughts, and now your brain is ready for that anchor thought. So then what I do after I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is I insert the anchor thought that I've already come up with before the flight. I start thinking about walking on the beach and being with my mom and my dad. And I start telling myself, I'm so excited to walk on the shores of Lake Michigan. I'm so excited to see my parents. Now something remarkable is going to happen in your brain. Because you've interrupted the fear, and because you've used the 5-second rule to assert control and awaken your prefrontal cortex, and because you have an image that contextually makes sense to your brain because you're flying to Michigan, you know what your brain does? Your brain goes, huh, Mel's excited to go to Michigan because my body is in a state, remember the first fact? Fear and excitement, exact same thing. What's the difference between fear and excitement? What your brain is saying. Using the 5-second rule and an anchor thought, you can actually switch the gears in your mind and reframe the thoughts of fear into thoughts of excitement. And because you have a vision that makes sense based on what you're doing, your brain buys it. You just tricked your brain. You see, I always thought procrastination had to do with the thing I was procrastinating around, right? Like that procrastination has something to do with work. Believe it or not, procrastination has nothing to do with your work. Procrastination is a form of stress relief. Let me explain this. So let's say that you've got some stuff going on in your life, and heck, who doesn't have stuff going on in your life? Maybe you're fighting with your significant other. Maybe mom's or dad's health is failing and it's really, really upsetting you. Maybe you've got some financial stuff. You put too much of your savings into Bitcoin, and now that that's crashed, you're stressed out about it, right? And so you go into work, and when you get into work, you got stuff to do, you kind of walk in and you got this big stress ball that subconsciously is hanging over your head. And so you walk in and you sit down and you know you got 13 phone calls you need to make. And you also know that you've been chickening out, you've been making easy calls, and there's a bunch of CIOs or other people that are higher level that you haven't been calling. And so as you sit down to do it, and you got the stress on your shoulders, your brain it starts to go, wait a minute, well, you want me to make a call to somebody that I'm scared to make? Absolutely not. I'm so stressed out about, can we just watch some cat videos for a minute? And next thing you know, an hour's gone by. And then, of course, what do? You beat yourself up. So the only way that you can break this habit, and that's an important word for you to hear, you're not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. Big difference. Because if it's a habit, I can teach you to use science to break it. You see, all habits have three parts. There's a trigger, and in the case of procrastination, the trigger's always stress. Then there's a pattern you repeat, and in the case of procrastination, it is to avoid doing something. And then there's a reward. You get a little stress relief. The only way to break a habit, you guys, is not to deal with the triggers. You're never gonna get rid of the stress in your life, but you can 100% change your pattern of avoiding work. My life changed a couple years ago when I discovered something called the progress principle. It is a principle that was written about in the Harvard Business Review. It's based on a tremendous amount of research done by a professor over there, and what she determined is that people that feel happy and successful and fulfilled by their lives and work, they all have one thing in common. They feel as though they're making progress on something that matters. So I read this little bit of research and I started applying it to my life. And what I do, as stupid as this sounds, it really works. I don't focus on balancing everything. I focus on just making sure that I make progress on one thing a day. And so by focusing on one thing a day, I feel the sense of control and the sense of progress that science tells us will make you happy and make you feel more confident and actually make you more effective at getting things done. So what you're going to do the next time you feel your emotions rise up is you're going to count backwards using the 5-second rule. You're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The second you hit 1, your prefrontal cortex should be engaged because we're drawing the focus away from the interior part of your brain and we are awakening your prefrontal cortex. You now have control. You have the ability to choose what you do next. I use this technique to manage my response to the emotional triggers all the time with my kids. Worrying about things that could go wrong and staying in that space undermines my ability to solve it, to be present, and it robs me of my full thinking capacity. If you catch yourself chronically worrying, it means you have a habit, and it will very much lead to anxiety. There is a direct correlation between your habit of worrying and then that becoming anxiety. So worry is a baby. Anxiety is the big sister because anxiety just means that the bad thoughts are now manifesting as physical symptoms in your body. Your stomach hurts, your throat is tight, you're sweating, your heart races. And a panic attack is when your mind gets concerned because your body state is agitated, so it takes over and gets you out of whatever situation you're in. And so you want to go to war against your habit of worrying. Use your worries as a quick signal that there's something to fix or pay attention to. But do not, under any circumstances, allow yourself to become the kind of person that wastes your precious lifetime sitting there spinning cycles. It's like washing the same load of laundry over and over and over again. It's a total waste of time, and it will erode your happiness and it will make you ineffective at getting the things that you want in your life. Acknowledge the stress. Then go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I want you to count to yourself because I want you to interrupt the habit that's stored here, and I want you to awaken your prefrontal cortex. Then I want you to just work, just for 5 minutes. The reason why I want you to only work for 5 minutes is because your problem isn't working. It's the habit of avoiding. I just need you to start. And here's the other cool thing. We know based on research that if we can get you to start, 80% of you are going to keep going. Every concern, every worry, every to-do, everything that's bothering you, that you're thinking about, you're gonna write down. But what should you do? What are 3 things, just 3, that you should do in order to advance the things that matter to you? Let's see, I gotta do that one, I gotta do that one, and I gotta do that one. I now not only have the 3 things I need to do, I've got a clear head so I can get it done. Here's something that every single woman needs to know. Harvard Business School just wrote up about this study where they asked a ton of managers across different industries, what is the #1 reason why you're not promoting your female, people that you're managing? Do you know what the manager said? #1 reason. I thought she lacked the confidence for the new role. Now here's the kicker. A kick in the gut, by the way, is that the managers were uncomfortable telling you, the woman, that she lacked confidence. Well, because they didn't want to be called sexist, and more importantly, they had no idea how to actually coach somebody into becoming more confident. If you're perceived as confident, you make more money, you advance faster, you have more satisfaction in what you're doing. And the thing that I want every single woman on the planet to understand is that confidence is not a personality trait. You can be extroverted and talk a lot and have zero belief in yourself. That's how I used to be. I used to be the loudmouth, bossy person that didn't believe a word that was coming out of my mouth, didn't like myself, none of it. There are tons of folks that are insecure, that it's uncomfortable to talk into a meeting. You're not lacking confidence, you believe in your ideas, you're lacking the courage to actually step out of your comfort zone. The one piece of advice that I want every single woman to know is that there are 2 kinds of work. There's visible work and there's invisible work. You only get credit for visible work. Visible work is how you behave in a meeting. That's a very, very important place to practice the skill of confidence. What do you do to practice the skill of confidence? #1, stop taking notes and just take note. If you have an important meeting, I used to be a lawyer, and you need all the details, hit the memo transcribe thing on your phone. Let Siri take the notes for you. Then take that file, go straight to YouTube, make it a private file, upload it. You know what YouTube will do?
Transcribe it.
Transcribe it for free.
Yeah.
So now you got your notes, but I don't ever want to see you in a meeting like this. So one of the things I want you to do in meetings, obviously just take note, don't take notes.
Right.
I want you to speak in a meeting. If you're uncomfortable, you don't have to share an idea, comment. I know we're wrapping up, but I just wanted to say in listening to all these ideas, I think Shelby's suggestion was a really important strategic consideration that I really liked a lot. That's it. Here's another thing to pay attention to. Your emails. Are they to the point? Do you have the confidence to write an email that is to the point, or do you ramble and go all over the place and the I thinks and explain yourself? So the most important thing that you can develop and work on for yourself, particularly for women, is the skill of confidence. Pay attention to visible versus invisible work. Raise your visibility by practicing small acts of confidence. Use the 5-second rule to interrupt the habits of taking notes, of saying I'm sorry, of writing long-winded emails, of not elevating your ideas.
Right.
And you'll be surprised by what happens. And if you're somebody that's watching this and you have no clue what you want, I'm going to say that's total bullshit. I think you've probably decided that either you can't have it because you don't think you're smart enough or good enough or worthy enough, or maybe you think you're too old, or you've told yourself that you can't make a living doing it. Both are complete and utter lies that you're telling yourself. What you need to do is ask yourself this. If you took money off the table, if you didn't give a shit what anybody else thought, what's the thing you would love to be doing with your life? Seriously. Do you dream of being a professional photographer? Do you want to open your own restaurant? You always thought about traveling the world and entertaining kids with your juggling skills. I don't know, it's your life. You get to choose what you want to do. Be honest with yourself. What is it that you would want to do with your life if you didn't have to pay the bills doing it? Another thing you can ask yourself, who do you find yourself sort of envious of? You know, like you look at their life and you just think, gosh, how awesome that they get to do that. Well, once you have that answer for yourself, you've gotten really honest, you've pushed the bullshit aside, and you've really asked it for yourself and answered the question honestly, all you got to do is explore it. That's it. Just find one thing that you can do to enrich and expand your knowledge about it. Find one course online, Google the topic, stalk people that are pursuing this line of work. That's how you start to do it, one step at a time. So start with answering the question, what do you really want, with a massive dose of honesty. Google the topic and find one thing that you can do, just one. Push yourself and start to explore. If you were to wake up and do that every single day, spend 10 minutes a day, you would be startled, astonished by what your life looks like in a matter of a year or two.